This is the Brooklyn Rails Wednesday afternoon online reading series. In fact, this is what is it? The 151st of these Wednesday readings. We've got a fabulous reading for you today, curated by Sommer Browning. And Sommer's invited Gion Davis and Lesley Selcer and Christine San Hao to read. And then I'll introduce everybody, and Sommer will say a few words at the beginning, then come back around to read near the end. This is also the 902nd chapter of the ongoing novel Social Environment, and these things take place every day somehow. And the readings take place every week. If you're new to the series, you might take a look at the chat from time to time, as there will be information posted about the Brooklyn Rail, and more particularly about the readers and their various endeavors and publications and things as as each of them comes up to read. Sommer, I think I'll introduce you more particularly when you come back up to read. So how about I just turn things over to you for a second, and then I'll come back and introduce Christine.
Sounds good, Handsome. Thank you so much. I'm glad everybody is here. Thank you for reading, readers, and thank you for coming. I am calling this reading The Revolutionary Costume, and that is how little Edie describes her outfit in Grey Gardens, that Maisels Brothers movie documentary in 1972. Little Edie says she hates women in skirts. She says she wears a skirt anyway, or rather fashions a skirt out of a length of material secured with pins or barrettes, right? I can't really tell. She says it's best to wear pantyhose under your skirt and then pants on top of that. She says that you can always take the skirt off and wear it as a cape. One of the Maisels, I don't know which one, I hear go, uh-huh, and mm-hmm, periodically. Then little Edie says, I have to think these things up, you know. I know, Edie. We know, Edie. I think the three readers in today's reading know that we have to think these things up. They know we have to think these things up, or else Silverfish will chew off the edges of our serifs, and all the mirrors will disappear, and broad daylight will narrow, and the alphabet won't even blow in the wind anymore. And Lesley, Christine, and Gion prune and prod and brave and shine language to fit this wild now that we're living in. So we have to think these things up, you know? And so we do it. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Sommer. All right. This reading is The Revolutionary Costume. I knew I was forgetting some detail. So our first reader will be Christine San Hao. Christine is a poet and visual artist of Hakka Chinese descent. Their publications include the chapbook Evolution of the Bullet from Bottle Cap Press, just this year, written in collaboration with Vicky Now. Playdate from White Columns, The Joy and Terror are both in the Swallowing from After Hours Editions, and Community Garden for Lonely Girls from Grandma Poetry. Their artwork has been exhibited at White Columns and Deli Gallery in New York City. Please welcome Christine to the Rail Reading Series.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for the thoughtful introductions from both of you. I'm really excited to be reading for the Rail today. So yeah, I'll just get started. My first poem is called A Diagnosis. And this is all relatively new work. Ling says getting a tattoo is like taking one step ahead of what you already are, like sailing towards a lighthouse in uncharted sea waters, limb-bearing somites in search of a head, a fitful body in search of a doctor in search of the correct procedure. The smaller the breasts, the more painful the procedure. I was in the process of decoding chemtrails in the sky, a long line of secret duties, tasks, and orientations makes itself known to the mystics. I make a promise to myself to get back to the animals I love, a pangolin, a bat, a rat. At a certain point, a patient will have experienced enough loss to feel like they've lost an entire person inside of them. The affair ends, the heads of the affair return to cloud time, the church closes its doors, and every day sorrow continues to extend its arms into outer realms that before were unknowable. Glory hole. Why won't you come in my mouth like you come in my ass? Would the sensation be too much for your delicate nerve endings, like when your tongue touches the tip of my clitoris at climax? Shall we meet in a black hole in the woods to start a fire? My clitoris comes alive once a day to smell your smoke and touch your mirror. I come alive once a day to put on your pants and wear your jacket. Computer program with permanent desire. It's okay to brainwash me with your repetitive sound. That is how much I am infatuated with your slumbering heart, resting in fetal position inside your model cove. There is a crooked nature to your kindness, a sugary glaze over your eyeballs that speaks to obsolete faith. It hurts to know that I may never have the opportunity to lick their slickness. It hurts to know that I may never have the opportunity to fan you with luscious green fronds before my face disappears into the produce aisle, into the tunnel, into the pathetic computer game from my youth. It hurts to know I may never have the opportunity to insert the needle into the eye of your convenient air pump. I need to be more economical in how I distribute my fingerprints around your wrinkled skin. Overthinking will dampen the party that celebrates the existence of art and leisure. Indeed, your masterful art exists, but the world will only know if they are sitting down and paying attention, grounded by the rice grains stuffed into their benevolent asses. I'm going to read a little bit from the chapbook I co-wrote with Vicky Now. And that is available from Bottle Cap Press. Memory theater. I think of all the ways I want to be cornered in memory theater. My feet only allowed to touch the circle, diamond, or hexagon. The floor is not lava, but purgatory, a dimension without sound, bathed in the colors of your dream house, each tile a mile in a long run towards the void. I do not desire the men in my life the same way I desire the women. I do not desire the poets in my life the same way I desire the artists. I sleep upon the cool breaths of my former lovers. My fantasies slowly crawl in the same direction as the theater. Those who are plagued with self-doubt seek shelter there, as well as those who have no memory of their past. An accident or birth defect may take you there unexpectedly. A sleeping prince will be there waiting for you. Prologue to Brazilian Wax. On the day of my appointment, I cry gentle shoelaces into your ear. What if we grew hair not for warmth, but protection? I am not talking about the hairs surrounding your genitals or the hairs that delicately sprout from deep within your anus. See how the hairs in your anus curl when exposed to direct sunlight. Its shyness will dissipate and its overall structure will straighten over time. How easy it is to use your hair to tie your shoes. Prepubescent wave of sorrow. I peel off my top layer of skin to make a burial shroud for your death. The funeral happening somewhere between the prepubescent wave of sorrow and the old bamboo forest. Bluebirds fly peacefully overhead, drop shit rain over my pathetic love. And I'll close with a couple more. Final destination. So what if the collar doesn't fit? I was never meant to run away anyway. I am just a little girl composed from the cells of birds, trapped in a cage of ultraviolet light. Show me self-improvement and I will give you the holy grail of wellness. Show me your whip and I will give you my prey. And I will end with, I'll end, let's see, I'm kind of a mess here. Okay. I'll end with a poem that I actually wrote yesterday or 2 days ago. Another lesson on love. All around the world, apologies are being made for not being able to make sex fun. Sometimes it is a mechanical issue and nothing to do with the ethics of fake friendships or the immediate pleasures of infatuation. Try using your left hand instead. Try using the bullet in the underwear drawer or the one in the pantry. Try striking the singing bowl of perverse longing and interminable doubt. It will sing a song so shrill, it will turn you psychotic. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks so much, Christine. Our next reader will be Gion Davis. Gion Davis is a trans poet from Española, New Mexico, where he grew up on a sheep ranch. His poetry has been featured in Had, Mayday, Sprung Formal, and other places. And his debut collection, Too Much, was selected by Chen Chen for the 2021 Ghost Peach Press Prize. He also received the Best New Poets of 2018 prize selected by Ocean Vuong. He graduated with his MFA in poetry from the University of Massachusetts a few years back and currently lives in Denver, Colorado. Please welcome Gion to the Rail Reading.
Hi, everybody. You can hear me, right? Cool. I'm going to read a bunch of new stuff from my new project, and I'm going to read a couple from my book, too. This first poem is called How to Be a Good Man If Conditions Are Better to Be a Wildfire. Buy your friend a beer with money you don't have. Make the most beautiful omelet in the world and hold his head in your hand. Wear a corduroy jacket under the covers. Do meth at the roller rink. Be a child forever if you're wealthy. Buy an old pickup truck on Craigslist. Lose everybody you've ever loved, one at a time. Feel like the world is going to kill you and drink 2 Miller High Lifes. Remind yourself that love is something you remind yourself of. Have appendicitis and react to death in an embarrassing way for your friends to walk in on. Be wronged egregiously in Durango, Colorado. Ask yourself if your nipples are a need or an aesthetic. Dream about the black worms all over you in the bathtub. Eat someone's tongue with mustard seeds and pickled carrots on marrow spread as thin as the golden white bellies of upturned boats and ring-necked doves. Be somebody's boy, buoy, his little emotional bank account. Get splashed with gutter water. Get hailed on. Dye your hair blonde even though you were already blonde. Let your female friends dress you up like a Ken doll and don't kiss any of them. Become a purse dog of a person. Wear a shirt that is non-threatening. Try on that pair of Wranglers again. Maybe they'll fit you this time if you surprise them. Come home to one person in your bed every night and stay who you are for the rest of your life. I guess I also just jumped into that really fast, but thank you to everybody, and especially Sommer, for inviting me to read, and Christine, that was so great. Yeah, anyway. This next poem is called Nothing's Hanging Out, Going to Whole Foods. You can't imagine it, the smell drying onto cardboard and into an old red wheelbarrow full of stomachs, heavier and whiter than the moon. They do not do that where you are from. Where you are from, a velvet rope runs the circumference of death, and you stood in line with a ticket just to touch it. Your mother told the school you had the flu. Where you are from, we longed to have each other's orgasms, and we ate pineapple from Whole Foods under a sky fractured by crabapple blossoms. Where you are from, there is a guy golfing into a bedsheet hanging in the garage. He is your father. In the dream, my father puts a tie on me and ties it, even though neither of us has ever worn a tie in my life. I make a shitty person, but I would have been an amazing tree, filling these astringent hours before dark with a dozen spotted towies in my branches, above the snow in the backyard, which is unmoving and deep as this new shadow cupping my face. It's not that I want to feel nothing. I want to do nothing but feel. They discontinued chiclets in 2016, and I didn't even notice them disappearing from around Our Lady of Guadalupe, like shakers of baby teeth, different colored squares that tasted identical, citrus for an instant, and then nothing. Chops are $9 a pound, and most of it is bone. There was a two-horn ram who split my hand, slamming through the catch gate I held closed, not suspecting the herd could release an individual, one who wanted to live desperately, the way I did. And this next one is called Out Here You Can Say Anything. It also has sheep in it. Out here you can say anything. You won't notice until you see the agate alien eyes of bighorn ewes clustered on a highway shoulder, and you think not of their wildness, but of the way their faces look like your mother and her sisters standing together against the tired unknown of a farmhouse kitchen. Eventually, your heart will feel flat as an alpine lake you skip grief across to watch it sink, nameless. You drove the ocean of Wyoming while lightning raked its fingers through the night, the way you will pull long, bright hairs off your mother's sweater, the way a guitar string will snap and flash mid-song. You will wish you could remember how to cry, standing in the glassy plain outside Gunnison, where it is 4 degrees and everything living is crusted with rime, and the sky is white, and the ground is white, and the air is white, and you rise up from the asphalt as if born to the darkness of it, alongside the ravens picking at an elk cow, her shoulder sloping broken as the mountains, who sat up tall in the dawn and scooched closer, like your mother, leaning into you at the funeral. And when you speak the names of fathers out loud, a murmuration of swallows passes over you with the sound of tearing paper, diamond bellies shining white, conjured from the air like snow, like breath. I'm going to read a couple now out of my book. It's called Too Much. This one, let's see. Where is it? We are both reservoirs. Mom delivers the bad news like she's asking a question. Grief is a man in bed. Kids standing on a roof looking down. Going outside without my keys or my money or my jacket. A little hill north of town I've never noticed before. We are both reservoirs flooding the wilderness of this house. Love is a battlefield, but never a room with a leaky ceiling or the stiff spider arms of earth movers waiting to turn up the dirt, or the man who lets his big dogs stick their noses into the surprised crotches of strangers, or the cowboy sitting his horse to let the skateboarders pass, or the snow freezing the budding leaves to their branches, or the pancakes resting under a towel, or the lighter fluid, the crabapple blossoms, you making the sign of the cross over with a lemon over the salmon, our rat-tailed radishes, Friday's little white ass, painful memories blowing by on rollerblades, the diamond-shaped hole in the clouds that the sun falls through. At night, I imagine the coyotes laughing together on the swing sets at the empty school up the road. The city is finally theirs. I'd laugh too if it was me. Who was I? My star chart says I was born to be an employee when I always felt I should be a planet myself, trudging through the universe as a gigantic, lonely eyeball. Leave it to heaven to tell me how I should exist on the ladder, as though it wouldn't be more cost-effective for me to drop dead, abandoning the pizzas I'd pick up with all the boyfriends I'd have, the tattoos and birthdays and paying for water. What is it like to be an unstructured animal, as innocent as Jupiter and twice as beautiful? All right. I just have a couple more. I think I'm doing okay on time, probably. Goddamn universe. I wanted to live in this junk drawer of a city with you, among the pyramids and piles of ripped up rebar like wads of hair from a bristle brush beside the Mississippi, a rehabilitation of pigtails in the constant twilight of a motel room, a Sudafed with your cold brew. I will feel out how impressive I want to be today. Tennessee is a hallway stretching between the lottery numbers in a gas station and sprays of redbud trees in some unmarked canyon. It's important to be honest. It's important to be emotional. I'm sorry if I was bullshitting you before. I've measured out my life in cookout trays, the synth in the middle called insane glory, the wisteria piled all over everything like a beautiful rash, and knowing which NASCAR drivers died of AIDS. Life is a rental, a bad idea in cowboy boots. You can be a hinge in the door of reality and give up on significance, but I wanted to write something so full it felt empty, an ornate bowl from the past filled with nothing but what happened. I wanted everyone to tap me in the chest with the back of a hand to say goodbye, like men do. I wanted you to know I loved you the way a concrete wall loves the color of the sky at dusk. I loved you when you cried while you sang. It was as easy as Sunday morning leaving Athens, where we stayed up eating curry with the hardcore band and shouting about Defiance, Ohio. It was as hard as the wet blue linoleum illuminated by the stormlight in Knoxville. It was invisible until you couldn't miss it, like the black dog in the black night you hit with your ex-wife's car. It was that time of day when even the pebbles have shadows. It was a lot of things, and it couldn't save us, not even sympathetic magic or rainbow flag decals, summer looming over the ocean, smelling like peaches, rotting off the branch and never ending. I would have crossed state lines for less. This is the last one. Thank you all very much for being here. It's been great. This one's called The Most Punk Thing You Can't Remember. I dreamed I was never so lonely, retreading the years where I have never been, my life saved by a peach snow cone the color of roses and sitting on the sidewalk outside the 76 eating fried chicken. From here, I can see where the fire jumped the highway and kept going. I was so angry I couldn't remember anything about Asheville, my memory as thin as glass for what I used to be. I had never once given up on love before it gave up on me. I'm not the type to cut and run. Someone tells me men's jeans have deep pockets, and I say, I know, I'm wearing them too. Where do you go when you're a loser with bleached hair? The next time we're in Sandusky, Ohio, you'll get us the jacuzzi suite, and the next time I wake up in New Jersey, I'll make sure you're never hungry again. When it comes down to it, do you mourn the people who will be lost, or do you feel anxiety for the art that will no longer have anyone to look at it? Who will read my poems when everyone is dead? I dream again of the woman I was. I see her across the room more clearly than I have ever seen myself awake, and she looks really good, and there was never anything wrong with her, but she couldn't stay. Where can I stay? The unpruned orchards out by Buffalo, the trees twisted as silver hands or squids in a tray, heavy with years of fruit, the blackbirds streaming like columns of smoke into the last hour of sun, the green glass insulators gleaming on telephone poles, the veal kennels backlit on the hills with the little steers silhouetted inside them, doing all they will ever do, which is sitting down or standing up. Where is there to go? Do you feel this slow shattering everywhere too? The high horse feather clouds, and all our hearts wobble like a few windows left in a burned out house. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Gion. Our next reader will be Lesley Selcer. Lesley is a poet making art. Keywords: collaboration, anti-discipline, synesthesia, anti-self. Their books include Sun Cycle, winner of the first Poetry Book Award, Blank Sign Book, which is essays on art and politics, and several limited editions, including From a Book of Poems on Beauty, winner of the Gazing Grain Award. Recent work is screened, exhibited, and been performed at venues including the Athens Film Festival, the Berkeley Art Museum, and other spaces. They've written for numerous museums or gallery catalogs, and are guest editing a sound issue of Tagvverk Poetry Magazine, which will be released this fall. Please welcome Lesley to the Rail Reading Series.
Hi, thank you. I've got Kathy Acker here with me in the room. She's having a reverie. I want her here while I create this book, which is called Club Space. I'm going to read fast because I have a chunk to get through. It is not safe for work. And thank you to the readers. It's been amazing. And the organizers, thank you. Jewel tries to shadow a soft butch crab dancing low to the floor. I flirt with Tiger, who leaves with Bunny. Between us is a heaven. Its paradise is set. Everything starts when Jewel puts their head on my shoulder. They have candy flipped and I am with Molly Bloom. Yes, it's hard to know who's on the inside and who's on the outside, whether the living bury the dead or the dead bury the living. I have unfastened from belonging to anything but art. But when Jewel puts their head on my shoulder, I come into the world because Aja is playing. I alight in Tiger Light, a lipstick bibliomancy, public sex for girls. I draw a red edge. Everyone in this room is inside it. I bring Jewel inside it. The music signals ecstasy to start. A whole holly sled with bells. We are together in the glee and weather. 1,000 years of history present instantaneously. All meaning is made here and left here on the dance floor. This is not love, this is not sex, this is ecstasy. Black fingerless gloves, leather waist wrap, girlish tears of toll, cowboy hat, metallic skirt, turbo boots with large buckles knee to ankle, plaid skirt, corset, posture collar, large jacket, sneakers, loose tee, complicated primitivist mesh, Morticia dress, schoolgirl skirt, black hair, white tee, dog collar, high platinum pony, long black lace, black lipstick, a forehead jewel, heels, a bit of wire, an old rag of velveteen, a lion tamer's costume with diamond studs, a curling carriage whip and a fake revolver, a quill between the teeth, the aureole of a straw hat, a bunch of grapes dangling in one hand, the other holding a telephone receiver to one ear, a coin gleaming on the forehead, on the feet, jeweled toe rings, ankles linked by a slender fetter chain, scarlet trousers, jacket slashed with gold, white yashmak, violet in the night, leaving free only her large dark eyes and raven hair. Bloom, Molly. At the club tonight, I meet Xavier. I stand at the edge of the dance floor in a pink bandeau bodice laced up with pink rope. I am Strawberry, bitchily commenting aloud as two men push past. They have disregarded my magnetic field with the dance floor. Tall androgyne and angst koala eyes, someone moving fast in ruffled kawaii. A black latex tank top shy with short bleached hair. The aqueous dance floor is my gorgeous Hydra lover. Xavier is suddenly next to me saying, Wanna go dance? With lightness I receive as beleaguered exquisiteness, his sunrise smile wending into goth night. I learn they does not like men. They are trying to tell me their sexual preference, but I hear it as conspiratorial. My black shirt gets yanked from the left back of my miniskirt where I've tucked it. I'm flagging, I tell X, tongue out like a child. I spot a swath of black mesh on the floor, pick it up, tie it over my eyes. I dance behind this reverse blindfold, watching Xavier's body dance. He throws Vogue arms. I get consent and wind the mesh around his wrists. The dancing this lets out is astounding. He twists his wrists, shows them off. The energy is wild, aggressively hot. I dance behind, around, above. I make a space protecting and enclosing my sudden new creature. Sped into lowness in the direction of the moon. It's always been best for me here, where flagellates and spermatozoa. The wind, the light, the noise of a sub-city. I am jacking a form of moving through time that is underneath bureaucracies of difference. I text Jewel from the bathroom. Ecstasy is the eye that sees in all directions. I fall to memory or reverie. I sucked my thumb, they fucked me from behind. I walked into the room, they were playing with the dildo. I kneeled and pushed it in with my hips. I slapped their face, I fingered their O-ring. I sat atop the radiator to which they were handcuffed. I spread my legs as they looked up. They bit my nipples through my dress. I curled to them at the side of the rave, realizing it would be our last. Cried. They topped me like a boy. I squealed and shouted. I pushed them back on the bed, their head dangling over the edge. I moved up and down their C. They caught the reflection in the half-moon mirror I'd placed on the floor. They licked my C. I said it was all I'd ever wanted. Just you and all the riches of the trees. Almost anything will bend to you, and you will bend to almost anything. On the dance floor between the hours of 3 and 4 a.m., light radiates up her spine. All around her body, gold concupiscent rays. She is watched by the invalid sun as a baby is watched by their mother. A nest of red is pulsating always around her head. She stretches out at the soft mouth of ecstasy. Now she is glowing golden. Gold travels outward, meets her perimeter, and emanates, increasing her size. Her entire body slides over thick hibiscus. She is moving as if in seawater, caves of colored stones, eyes that flash. She pulls herself up onto the bank, legs flexed. I love the shadow world more than thee, her one thought. A choir of aquatic plants gives praise. Giant white lily pad flowers open slightly. She's hunting gently. She begins to climb, heroic in overcoming everything that is not pleasure. A dragonfly climbs higher than it's ever flied. All fauna and foliage is combed back and sated, sleepy and submissive as her feet return to ground. Between 4 and 5 a.m., a spontaneous piano staircase rises through the music, climbs up and over a waterfall. It flows like a rainbow from yellowed bright ground. The beat is seeking, a feminine melodica shaking hair from her eyes, sending morning up and out through a peephole. The scalloped rhythm of the coming day, the sun, fans of orange, huge phonograph barnacles flowering underwater. We are being taken through by a woman's voice. She is guiding us, small, incompactable, wrapped, vaporous, metabolizing, impactable. The curve of us flexes intricately around beauty, a lemon stolen from a tree. We are an acephile turned the other way around to enter with each other, an idea, which is a sound. Jewel texts, femininity deincarnates the present. Each consciousness goes up and down. The sea is not messy. The moon is music, a curved ocean, yellow on green, blue striped, piles or pylons, an announcement to turn the head of sorrow. The sun has disrobed for us. We are inside the total withdrawal of the visible. We dance, infinity squandered, dropped over the ocean like a library dropping into a pool. Between the hours of 5 and 6 a.m., the sound is inside sea glass. The sea glass washes out with the tide, then comes back in a different color. All the rays of the sun, every single one, move through this room. Light projections on the radial ceiling slope over us where we dance. This beat sets the law as it builds. I am turned on by the illegality of change. I feel like crawling, some combination of a jaguar and a wolf. I'm in a plaid schoolgirl skirt and a black crop top. This beat is braying, then whining, then churning. This beat is losing. No, never losing, but for a minute gets lost. Who is playing bravely? Music is the objectification of time, I think, in full words later to text to Jewel, the thought writing atop a fully formed theory of change. Dionysus enters. I press my hands together, rub, stop at my solar plexus, project power outward, move them downward, knees bent, hands together, low, phallic. I become elephant, shrunk to the ground, sensing. Then the music splits to butterflies. They escape around the top of my body. I have 3 heads in this sound. We are inside a terrarium of color. Morning is bound at the waist by a tight plastic sash topped with 2 breasts caged in plastic, blue stockinged legs end in tall blue platform shoes. She still wears the smudgy trace of the rose black ice lip gloss of night. She spits a silver wad of moon into the ocean. I step outside. My hair is in 2 French braids. Oh, the fig trees and the Alameda gardens, yes, and all the queer little streets and pink and blue and yellow houses, yes, and the rose gardens and the jessamine and geraniums and cactuses, yes. I come into day as if into form. The needle is no longer on the groove of my thoughts. My narrative is not delimited by the words I know how to say. I am called to the occasion of the sea, which swallows the hot day in its foment of green, vaguely an age, vaguely a gender. In atmospheric drop, I am a sailor coming back to land, ridiculous, ancient, triumphant, invigorated by stupidity and sound. Tonight I dress easily, tight underbustier and opaque black tights. I step out at 12:15 a.m. to drive over the back highways and into the forest. This rave is thrown by girls. I flashlight my way down to the clearing, an animal skull mask, a latex leotard, a skirt over a skirt, 2 lovers, both with blonde braids. I dance behind them as they kiss. In my blonde braids, I become their shadow or their child or their desirer, or them. The feminine is a field of imagination. I text to Jewel in my mind, to be unmoored, to be unattached, to be attached to almost anything good enough. Dissolving like sweet fruit, I am alive in this defunded shape. I dark toe my way through bunchings of decorate warm bodies up the path to the altar. It is made of 4 levels of candles, votives at the base, eggs grottoed in, sprigs of baby's breath, a ceramic icon, 3 tiers, fountains with falling water. What are the vials? Estrogen. Every measure is linked to a form of power, I transmit to Jewel. She thinks back. Sound teaches me the inconclusiveness of time. We are celebrating Easter. The next day will be the first warm one, the day after the spring equinox. 2. It starts at 10 p.m. or later. I take a bath, decide which will or whether my outfit will address. Smudge, tea, primer, highlighter, lipstick, leather cuff, leather O-ring cuff, up the winding road and back to the deep nighttime forest. I am the glass-to-see new elephant of this stand of redwoods. I stare across the fire at Ivy. I stare and stare. Ivy makes no indication toward hello. I am having an attack of nearsightedness, but Ivy is having a vision. You had 3 heads in the trees, Hecate. They are dancing next to me suddenly in the crowd, their childish smile framed by a long dangling earring from which hangs a crescent moon. Ivy's always just verging on Kathy Acker, young but ancient, gender, refusal. In turn, I tell them about my disco nap revelry. I am back outside my wee cottage in Piedmont. Shadows charm the long wooded walkway outside the little red door where I lay in the sun to read. In a Charlie Brown wah-wah voice, the landlord assures me Piedmont has no renter's rights as she non-renews my yearly lease I signed after my San Francisco landlord doubled my rent. Unevicted, backward in time, I ask my napping self, where is desire? The main house is at the end of the walkway, inhabited by a divorced family, all blonde. No, my desire answers, in the tree. I begin to flop great gossamer Wings, the sound of industrial plastic. The air is cleansed bright blue. I ascend. From dappled ground, I am inside a tunnel of sun clarity, ensconced in infinity dendrites, tipped in green, rippling my silver reflective surface wings. I hear a ruckus or buzz of moving bodies. Look left over a line of trees, a rave. In one precise and weightless line, I sail south through crisp NorCal air. I land atop a redwood tree and gargoyle there. The dancers below me are animate as animals. The beat slices right angles through unmoving redwood time. Almost finished. The lasers are a novel weather system flashing through the trees. The techno turns insolent, and this brings plentitude to the dance floor. The sound crawls sideways with a pickaxe, slows down to a gong that bounces off 4 copper walls, 6 copper walls, 8 copper walls. Copper begins rippling into its own sound. Venus mirrors pulsing, undulating now. The walls are an instrument of human time. I am in high black platforms, black shorts, and a black crop top. I arch back in masculinity as dark leather force flies fast at us in layers and stripes that expands right and left simultaneously. My wingspan follows. The unconscious deals with infinite sets that have not only the power of the innumerable, but also that of the continuum. A scrubby twink in a ball cap behind me explains to her girlfriend. Day climbs brightly just beyond the trees, the sun facing off with the moon, an impervious love affair. The weight of lightning blue resonates as sadness in my bowels. Morning feels pushy. We're not ready. It feels like the bright smile of work or school. I want to stay. I want to stay.
Thanks so much, Anne and Lesley. Our final reader today is also our curator, Sommer Browning. Thanks, Sommer, for getting everybody together. Sommer Browning is a poet, arts writer, curator, and artist. Her latest book is Good Actors, published by Birds LLC last year. She's the author of 2 other collections of poetry, Backup Singers and Either Way I'm Celebrating, as well as the artist book, The Circle Book from Cuneiform Press, the joke book, You're on My Period from Counterpath, and others. She is currently touring and performing a one-woman play based on her 3rd collection of poems. Her poetry, art writing, and visual art have appeared in numerous places, including Hyperallergic, Art Forum, Lit Hub, Bomb, the Chicago Review, and elsewhere. Please welcome Sommer to the Rail Reading Series.
Thank you so much. Thanks to all the readers and all the audience, all the organizers. The famous artist is on the Love Boat. For a few seconds during the opening credits, the famous artist's face appears inside a stylized blue wave. He's wearing a tux like all the other male stars in the episode, Andy Griffith, Milton Berle, Raymond St. Jacques. He's last in the credits because his name begins with W. Long ago, his name ended in A, but he dropped it. No one seems to know where the A went. The famous artist's storyline in this episode is called Picture from the Past. In all the most famous pictures of him, he looks like he's pretending to be a person. All the mannerisms of a person are there, and the accoutrement, hair, suit, shoes, a face. Beyond the fact that there is a face, though, what? It's unreadable. In fact, it's aggressively empty. People have said it is boredom or shyness, aloofness or smugness. But it's the thing in the middle of all that, the or. When we remember the 80s, we're encouraged to remember the people who are plastic, overacting parodies of themselves. Mr. T, Gaddafi, Cher, Margaret Thatcher. The famous artist's diffidence parodies the parody. The famous artist is merely himself. Maybe he flicks the tiniest smile, or maybe his lips just twitched. I would rather watch somebody buy their underwear than read a book they wrote. See how even his sentences sound like parodies? The fact that the famous artist is on an episode of The Love Boat isn't special. The famous artist shows up in dozens of movies and television shows. Sometimes he plays himself, sometimes he doesn't. The actor Cary Elwes plays him in the 2018 film Billionaire Boys Club. Funnily enough, in this movie, the famous artist is in town filming the Love Boat episode. As he dines with Kevin Spacey, they gossip about his episode's co-star, Milton Berle's huge penis. The scene is smarmy, oily, predatory, awkward. When you watch it, you cringe. And then whatever cringed in you cringes. In I Shot Andy Warhol, Jared Harris plays the famous artist but is too sweet. In Factory Girl, Guy Pearce plays the famous artist but is too handsome. In Basquiat, David Bowie plays the famous artist but is too schnabel. In The Doors, Kristen Glover plays the famous artist but is too generous. In Men in Black 3, Bill Hader plays the famous artist but is too silly. In Watchmen, Greg Travis plays the famous artist but is merely a prop. In Death Becomes Her, Bob Swain plays the famous artist but his bangs are too long. The famous artist is poolside. He is photographing subjects randomly, it seems, but it's not random at all. He's guided by the artistic aesthetic, that elite thing that cannot be questioned, a knowledge of what is beautiful that approaches divinity, off limits to all but a few. The famous artist sees something in you, something you knew had always been there, something waiting to be discovered. The famous artist sees what you want to stop hiding. The ship's bartender, Isaac, desires to be seen. He suggests the famous artist paint his portrait. He puts his arm around the famous artist, but Saint Jacques gently removes it as if to say, "Don't touch the merchandise." But Saint Jacques has it wrong. The merchandise is Isaac's desire. In many movies, photographs, and books, the famous artist spends a lot of time on the telephone. In The Doors, Crispin Glover holds a golden telephone. He tells Val Kilmer, playing Jim Morrison, that God is on the other end of the line. The famous artist admits he has nothing to say to God and hands it over to Jim. Perhaps someone else would have something boring enough to tell God. The famous artist is on the phone with his friend Viva when 2 bullets ricochet around his rib cage. The famous artist almost dies on the phone. The ship's photographer Ace has slipped the famous artist some of his own photographs. He confronts Saint Jacques. "Did the famous artist see my photos?" "Yes, he called them the essence of crass commercialism." Oh, he didn't like them. On the contrary, the famous artist says crass commercialism is what makes America great. The great American laugh track laughs. One cannot just speak to the famous artist directly. Talking to the famous artist requires playing that old familiar game, telephone. It's a lot like praying to God through Jesus by the Holy Spirit. By the time your prayer gets to God, who knows what the hell you're asking for? Near the end of the episode, one of the characters calls the famous artist a New York flake ball. In this context, New York means pretentious and flake ball means gay. Words being the best actor of all. The more famous you are, the more important the things you hide become. The famous artist compulsively wore wigs, even wigs of various lengths, to pretend he got his hair cut. In 2020, 3 of them were under glass at the Tate Modern. Shirley from the Pancake House, where I used to hostess, wore wigs too. I'm sure they're in a landfill at this point. Viva is the famous artist's close friend. She is a friend that didn't overdose at 28, get run over by a car at 38, die of complications related to AIDS at 62 or 52 or 56, or diabetes at 59, overdose at 38, die of cancer caused by carcinogenic hormone treatments at 29, die from cancer at 78 or 69, die from either a hit and run or a heroin overdose at 29, jump out of a window at 24, die of a brain tumor at 50, jump out of a window at 28, die from either a seizure or drug overdose at 45 or 46, die from falling off a bicycle at 49, disappear off the face of the earth at 42, die of a stroke at 78, or heart failure at 68, like all his other friends. No one knows if the famous artist really loved anyone. No one can really agree on a definition of love anyway. Don't you love that? The famous artist might say. Don't you love that no one knows what love is? Don't you love that no one knows what love is, but they say they just love, love, love things all day long? Thank you. That's it.
Thanks, Summer. And thanks again, Christine and Lesley and Gion, and thanks everybody for coming. We're going to do what we do and throw the mics all open so folks can say hello and goodbye on their way out into the day. And we'll be back next week with a reading curated by Joshua Escobar.
Thank you so much. That was
Thank you.
Thank you very
So
much.
great.
Thank you so
all.
much.
Gion, Christine,
Thank you.
Lesley. Thank you, Anselm and Carolyn, too. Such an amazing reading.